Wonderful. Okay, well, welcome everyone. First of all, I think we may be able to have a shorter meeting tonight, which we should all aim for because we've had some long ones. That'd be great. Do we have an approval of the minutes, the previous minutes, or do we have any proposed amendments?
I
Go ahead, Laura.
I have just a proposed amendment. Let me see if I can get my screen up. There was under the sustainable purchasing policy update, maybe pages right on the bottom, like 2 to 3. Go down one more, I think. Stop right there. So it mentioned my suggestions for an e-procurement program. It says centralized purchasing where possible. I'm not sure how I worded that, but what I meant was kind of bulk purchasing where fiscally advantageous. I mean, the whole point of e-procurement is so that you wouldn't have to have a centralized purchasing system. Everybody could still do their own thing. But if there was an opportunity where we could bulk purchase toilet paper to save some money, might be able to do that using an e-procurement system. So I didn't want to send the message that, oh, we need to centralize our purchasing. That was not my intent.
Okay, perfect. That sounds like a good amendment to me. I know we've talked about that.
Do you want
uh,
me to say,
Bulk purchasing where fiscally advantageous.
okay, good, thank you. Got it.
Okay. So do we have any other proposed amendments? Not seeing any. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Moving on, do we have public comments? I have one public comment from Kevin Spittler. He's unable to attend tonight, but emailed it to me and I will read it. But do we have any other public comments this evening? Okay, so let me read, not seeing any, let me read Kevin's. Let me get down. Okay. Middleton Cross Plains Area School District achieved 2024 climate champion status from the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change for 10 schools whose energy usage is 25 to 50% lower than typical elementary, middle, and high schools. The district has not provided information on how these improvements were achieved, but I suspect converting virtually all lighting to LEDs is one factor. And then he is referring to the, there's a Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change press release. And he also wants to say, by the way, the 350 Wisconsin organization was also a climate champion recipient for grassroots efforts advocating for a shift away from fossil fuels. Next paragraph, excuse me, as each department within the city submits its 2025 budget request to the city committees and the council, we scrutinize them for more sustainable options that can be brought to the attention of staff and then pointed out to the mayor, city administrator, and council members. Bob Owen has provided many underlined suggestions to the Pleasant Valley, I think he means Pleasant View, Golf Course Advisory Committee on how, maybe it's Valley, but I thought it was View. Advisory committee on how they can become much more sustainable. They meet monthly on a schedule that is identical to the MSC, so Bob may be participating in that meeting this evening. It remains to be seen how soon they will make changes, including for this next budget year, but Bob is trying hard to open some minds as to the possibilities. We are trying to get, I see only my first page printed. We are trying to get the Middleton Airport Commission to think ahead to a future of electric aircraft and related charging infrastructure, and to inform or remind commissioners, some of whom are new, that the city has specific goals and objectives for moving away from fossil fuels. As a result, their September 5th meeting had an agenda item for an update and discussion on aviation industry, electric aircraft, and charging infrastructure. And I gave a brief public comment. And then let me go on. Let me pick that rest of it up here. I gave a brief public comment, encouraging them to think ahead. The committee discussed the issue for 10 minutes and the chair said he would draft some thoughts on the matter for future consideration. We learned that the airport in Oshkosh is on the forefront of this, no doubt related to their affiliation with the annual EAA Air Adventure. We found out that the tourism department will be searching for a new vehicle in the 2025-26 timeframe, and then learned that Public Works dissuaded the director from any vehicles other than ICE/gas Fords. So we contacted them and informed her as to other options and the city's sustainable purchasing policy, and she indicated she would consider better options and said she would consult with other city departments, including with Kelly. As for school district actions this year, they're expected to publicly reveal climate change mitigation plans at the board meeting in October. We are hopeful that some of these are significant and will take great advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act and other substantial rebates and grants. And then he mentioned Sustainable U presentations at the Middleton Library continue on October 24th. Kathleen Slattery-Moshkow will address sustainable development in Middleton. She is a developer of Bell Farms, the new ultra-sustainable project on the northwest corner of Middleton, planned to be a neighborhood of net zero homes built with geothermal, solar, and high-performance construction methods, among other features. And note, you do need to register for that. And Deb helped plan this whole series, by the way. And then Kevin says, thank you for your service on this committee and the opportunity to address tonight's meeting. Okay. That is his public comment. All right, so moving on to the next item. Is Ben here? Do I see Ben?
He is, yep. And I will
Well-
stop share and let Ben talk about his company Greenbox and some potential ways that the city of Middleton could work on food waste composting. He's very knowledgeable, has a lot of experience, so I'll let him talk about his Greenbox right now. I think you should be able to share now, Ben.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Kelly. Can you all hear me all right?
Yeah. And first of all, welcome, Ben. Thanks for educating us.
No,
tonight.
thanks for having me. Let me just see if I can start this presentation for y'all. Okay.
While Ben is starting that, I'll just quickly mention regarding food composting that it's a huge source of methane, which is a huge greenhouse gas contributor, especially in the short term, the 20-year short term.
You're jumping all over my presentation.
Well, I guess I know one thing about what I'm talking about. That's good.
No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I don't really get into any of the nitty-gritty as far as sorry. As far as like science goes, and if you want, I'm happy to have like a more in-depth conversation about that sort of stuff. But this is more just like some ways I think that Middleton and Greenbox could work together towards this. Kind of assuming that we all think that composting is a good thing to do. If we want to talk more about that in particular, I'm happy to do that again in a more like granular way some other time. Can you all see the presentation all right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So, I think, I guess to set the stage a bit before I launch into this, I'll just talk quick about Greenbox. So Greenbox, I founded in February of 2022. At the time, we had 25 members. Maybe we were diverting like 200 pounds of food waste a week. And it was just me working there. In that time, between then and now, we've grown to service almost 900 residents in the Madison area. We work with over 40 businesses, including some big ones you probably know, like Epic, Exact Sciences, American Family Insurance, Willie Street Co-op, the Monona Terrace, other names I'm sure you know, but I can't think of right now. And we now divert about 10 tons of food scraps a week from the landfill. There's 7 of us working here now. Our headquarters is in Sun Prairie, where we do most of our composting. And yeah, so I mean that kind of sets the stage. I'd say of those 900 residential members, we probably have about 50 or so in Middleton currently. I would say, and a few businesses, the largest one being, I believe that Willie Street Co-op is in Middleton, correct? On University.
Yes, we have
that's
one location.
Our largest one. We divert about 1,000 pounds a week from them on their own. That's what they have their juicing operation apparently. So that's kind of the background about Greenbox. Kelly and I have spoken a little bit, just kind of throwing some ideas around, but nothing concrete really. And she thought maybe it'd be useful for me to talk with you all. And so here I am. Did that switch? Oh, there we go. Okay, it's a little bit laggy. Apologies. So honestly, we can skip through this. There's a few ideas that I've had around this. I think one of the first ones that I thought about was just, I'm a Madison native, but I've been gone for a while, and I moved back from Chicago about 3 years ago to start Greenbox. Middleton had changed a lot since the last time I was there, and that downtown area is really, really vibrant. And I think, one of the main things that I've got compost on the brain and all those restaurants down there. It seemed like there'd be some sort of way for the city and Greenbox to help catalyze some sort of, program where, if we can get a critical mass of businesses in the downtown area to compost, either through some sort of subsidy or like convincing all at the same time, we could pass off a pretty big savings to them and divert a really sizable amount of food waste. I mean, restaurants are really, that's where that's where a large part of our food scrap waste diversion comes from, is restaurants. Obviously, it's a point source where there's a ton of food prep going on, and it's a really obvious place, to make that improvement. The other one is a drop-off program. I just recently created a relationship with a manufacturer that makes these drop-off kiosks that are, smartphone enabled, and lock in a way that allows people to access them if they want to, but only if they've undergone like a certain very low bar of education, just so enables us to compost without worrying about contamination. So I think that could be a really great option. And obviously if you have a point source as opposed to going to everybody's homes, it's much more cost effective. The trade-off is that it's a little bit less likely to be adopted by individual residents. Another one is subsidized swap program. This is the one that Greenbox is most familiar with. We have a program with the city of Oregon where they subsidize our program, so it only costs $10 a month for a resident to compost with us, as opposed to $26 a month. And we've seen really great growth there. We have about 50 members there, where at the beginning of this year we had 0. So and Oregon, farther flung community than much of the Madison area, and they've seen great growth in just 6 months or so. So I think that's a really great option. We're working on a similar thing with Sun Prairie. We applied for a grant, and part of that grant is working with them to subsidize curbside composting for up to 150 of their residents. And the last one, and we also have a pretty good amount of experience with this, is composting with the school district. I know that doesn't really necessarily fall under your jurisdiction, I don't believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that working with you, we could perhaps get the right contacts and the right people involved to do that with the school district. And I mean, that's great for a few reasons. I mean, I guess to say we've done this with MMSD and Sustain Dane for 5 different schools at various points in time over the last 2 years. Currently, there's only one left because they were composting on a grant, and they only had enough for one school to continue on. So, but it's been great. There's a lot of opportunities for education around that. And I mean, I saw you guys, or I heard you guys highlighting the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District. Is that right? Their sustainability initiatives, and this could be another great one for that that kind of process. But we can dive a little bit deeper into these. So downtown Middleton composting, basically, again, we have 40 commercial partners already. They divert, anywhere from 100 pounds a week to, Epic right now is diverting, I think 4,000 pounds a week, and that's just scratching the surface. We're about to start a larger scale program with them, and they'll probably be doing 8,000 pounds a week by the end of this year. So we're very familiar with all different sizes. Though some of the advantage of our system is that most accounts of ours have a clean cart swap. So we go there, we swap out a cart that's full of food waste for a fresh, freshly cleaned cart. We're really great with signage. We have an onboarding process that educates both owners and staff and whoever else is involved in this program on the best way to like what they can compost with us. And a little sidebar, the way that we compost allows for all food scraps, including meat, bones, dairy, compostable items, compostable liners, things like that. And so the only issue we really have is just making people aware that composting exists and that, you can't put glass and aluminum in there. And you have to really be making sure that the compostable items, forks, plates, spoons, knives, etc., are truly compostable. And so we do a lot of education around looking for the right labels, but as far as like what food scraps are compostable, you don't really have to worry about that. So the onboarding process is really simple. Another thing that I think Kelly and I talked about months ago at this point now when we first met was the possibility of branded compostables for like the downtown Middleton area. And I think, a lot of the battle with initiating a composting program is getting the word out that it's actually happening. And so if you have these branded compostables, it says, like Middleton or downtown Middleton compost, something like that, it kind of helps display that this is happening, helps showcase the fact that the city or the district or whatever it is that's, helping support this has put their effort behind it, and also just makes the public aware that it's happening. And so I think that could be a really great opportunity as well. The next option, and one of the ones that I'm really excited about, we haven't, started this program yet, but we were just looking for the right environment for it, is this drop-off kiosk program. And you can see this here. This is what it would look like. We'd probably brand it with, if we decided to pursue something like this with something from Middleton and something from Greenbox, so we can showcase kind of like our program together, but also just what's compostable and how do you sign up for this app. And so what this is basically is a kiosk. It's like a shell basically over a trash can. And the reason we want that shell is just that one of the big issues with composting is, or I say the two biggest issues with composting is education and contamination. And so like having this shell over a cart allows us to educate really well. And then this kiosk locks unless you open it with a smartphone app. And that does sound a little tedious, but compared to a lot of the other options, it's not. And what it does is allows us for a secondary piece of education saying you have to, basically click that you understand what is compostable and what's not, and have to, purposely open up this kiosk. So there's never going to be like an errant, Coke can tossed in there to contaminate a batch of compost. We know that people who are accessing this really want to be composting, and it's not just like an idle tossing something away. And these can be co-located with trash and recycling, so that people are looking to do that, they can do that as well. But it's really public facing. It's really affordable. I mean, I think the ideal program here would be, the city contracting Greenbox for this, and then it's free to the public, And so it's a great way of jumpstarting a composting program. And then people who want, if they don't want to walk down to these kiosks, they can contract with Greenbox, for a program that does cost money, but is more convenient. And people who can't afford that or don't want to spend the money on that can just walk to, several locations. Obviously, this is a map of New York you're seeing here, and so they have, one every block. I don't think we would do that. Middleton isn't dense enough to warrant that, but we can strategically place them at various locations, public parks, libraries, the downtown district, things like that, where people congregate anyways. And, the added bonus of that is, if it's at a library, if it's downtown, it'll bring people into those locations as well. Like if that's where you go to drop off your compost, you're going to just be down there anyways. So it'll kind of like spur, some more, visits as well. And the final thing is that, our swap service is incredibly clean. So we'll like this outside part we'll probably clean on a regular basis, but the big thing is the inside cart we will swap out, either weekly or twice a week, depending on, the usage, so that there's always a clean cart in there. It's not smelling. So it won't be like an eyesore or you know, uh, a smelly kind of location. And that's, I should say, as another sidebar, one of the main things that I was looking to solve with green boxes, the issue that people have with composting being gross or smelly or, unattainable. We make it easy, we make it clean, we make sure that none of that, the more quote unquote gross stuff. Well, we'll take that on. I started a compost company. I'm not worried about the smells. I've dealt with the smells. I'm not worried about it. But the average person living in an apartment building who doesn't have access to a yard, that's not, they've got so many barriers in the way to them composting. And so a kiosk program like this that would be free eliminates so many barriers, because that's our last one is price. Again, the one that I know best is curbside service. We have 900 members about, and we have one program, hopefully two by the end of this year, subsidized curbside programs. We've seen really great uptake when we lowered the price by more than half in Oregon, and that really increased uptake, and they've diverted a ton of waste since then. Well, many tons of waste since then. And I kind of already talked about this, but again, big points here are the bucket swap service is extremely clean. We take all food waste. We come by every other week. People have all of these accounts will have diversion metrics. So if it was the drop-off program, it would be the city of Middleton that we'd report diversion metrics to on a weekly basis to say, hey, this is what we've collected so far this week. Here's what your running total is. So you can really quantify, those impacts on the climate, on the environment and climate. And the last one again, and I know it's probably a little bit outside of the purview of this entity, but school district composting. I think if we get all 10 schools on board, we have a lot of history with schools. Rolling it out for all 10 schools means we could pass on really great cost savings, because that lump sum of new business means that we can create efficiencies around that. Metrics, would be another great way to get a climate champion award for the school district. And again, we make it really easy. We take all food waste. We've worked well with janitors. We have compostable liners that we can get to the schools as well. That makes collection really easy. And there's really great opportunity to get compost back to those schools, so children can see that whole life cycle. They can see, okay, I put my food waste, or somebody put my food waste in this collection bin. It goes to the warehouse or to green box where it gets composted, and then it comes back as finished compost that we can put into a school garden or something like that. So I think there's a really great learning opportunity. That's one of the big things that as Greenbox grows, I really want to try and push is that kind of holistic view of the food system, and how we can kind of be that missing link between food waste and soil again. And then this last slide here is just kind of like estimated first year impact of each of these programs. And I'll say these are real ballpark numbers. A lot of the devil's in the details of all this stuff. But you just kind of see here, the amount of interactions, or different people contributing to diversion, and people just seeing that compost is a service that exists in the Madison or Middleton area, and actually how much weight of organics I think we could divert with each of these programs. So I think the most impactful in terms of weight would definitely be the downtown program, just because getting those restaurants composting, I think, would really make a big impact. But in terms of residents actually engaged, I think that the drop-off program is really, really strong, just because it'll be like a really visible part of the landscape of the city wherever it is, and we'll just get people thinking a bit more about this sort of process. So I know there's maybe a lot covered in a really short amount of time, but I wanted to just give you an overview so that I don't take up too much of your time. And if you want to talk more details about any of these, happy to do so. We also love to do tours if you ever want to come out to the warehouse in Sun Prairie and kind of see our program. I'll say it's pretty different, I think, than most people. Actually, maybe I'll just do that quick if I can. Pull up just some photos of our process at Greenbox, just to highlight kind of how we're a little bit different. There we go.
Yeah, while you're waiting for the next thing to load, I'm not a customer because I compost on my own in my backyard. I do it myself, but we can't put meat bones or dairy. So actually I made an old chicken yesterday and I made broth with it, but then the bones I had to throw away. But I wouldn't have to if we had this.
Yeah, and so actually I should say before I go on to the next thing, are there questions about anything I just highlighted there? Sorry about that.
And I apologize too. I didn't see when Dick and John put their hands up, but go for it, Dick and John.
Yeah, so I guess John, since you're on mute.
I think Dick had it first, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, John. Yeah, this is really exciting. Deb and Christy and I had gone over to the Madison College composting facility 2-3 years ago, and with the high school. And you mentioned the school, and I don't want to downplay the opportunities here because our kids, our community's kids, go to the school, and getting the school to engage in it seems really important. And maybe Brad, after put your hand up to get in the queue here, but I really think that particularly some of the schools are more along maybe than the others. For example, one of our sustainability community awards, Middleton Sustainable Middleton Awards, went to the Cromery School. And one of the things that we learned is that when they got the award is that the students there are really working hard and trying to developing a composting program.
Awesome.
I feel like there's lots of opportunities here, and restaurants feels like, man, there must be a tremendous amount of food waste, and all centrally located and getting them engaged seems like a big deal. And a school district, I wouldn't want to minimize the opportunities because I think there's a lot of interest in trying to get it into the schools, educate the kids at an age where they see how important it is and bring that home, and getting the residential aspect because the kids are interested in talking about it. So I'm really excited about this. The only other question I have is, how is the funding on this? I mean, you obviously need to pay staff. How do you make enough money to make this program sustainable?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll say all of our services we do charge for. So I should, get that out of the way right away. We can't make anything out of nothing, unfortunately. And so these programs would all be, depending on the city of Middleton's involvement in these programs, there would all be some sort of contribution from the city of Middleton. Like if we did the drop-off kiosk program the way that I'm envisioning it, it would all be covered by the city of Middleton. I'll say it's a lot less expensive than it would be to do, the subsidized, like an individual curbside program, writ large for everybody. So I think like there's certain things we can do to tweak, what's most effective, per dollar. And so, with the, like, for example, the school district composting, it would cost money. It'd probably have to come from, I guess, the school district. But I think, the nice thing there is it's not a ton of hauling because there's not a ton, as I've found, there's not a ton of food waste coming from each school. Most kids, finish eating their lunch, that they're hungry. But it's a great opportunity for education. So again, like you mentioned, there's different trade-offs. Like, do you want to have it be really public and high exposure, or really impactful in terms of food waste diverted?
Yeah.
And again, that's something we can get into as we get more nitty gritty about it.
Yeah, Ben, I could sit here and ask you questions. Actually, I have a bunch of them, but in the interest of the time of the
Sure, yeah.
meeting, let's keep it moving. But I actually would like to follow up with you afterwards. I bet all of us would in different
Yeah.
ways.
And feel free to email me whenever. I'm pretty good about getting back within
good.
24, 48 hours. So happy to do that.
Okay, John, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah,
with-
I'll follow Christie's lead and I'll be very quick and terse. First of all, City Alder, the city does not financially engage with the schools, so this would have to be a process through the schools. Certainly you can politic, but it's not a monetary thing. But I think some of it used to be, some of Middleton schools had centralized food production. And that might be a place, rather than looking what comes off the plates, is looking where the kitchen is and how much of that is one source could maybe gain a lot of traction with the school and start there. So just something I would certainly look into. Second of all, I know and have a number of friends who live in apartments who they certainly have to go down into their garages every day, every couple of days to take their trash and their recycle out. We of course are in the winter and then going outside to do this compost. Have you ever thought about engaging some of these apartment owners to see if one of these boxes could go down in the same place where people are guaranteed to go down to do their recycling? And it's not as visible, but it certainly might be a way to get them. You know, if I was going down in my slippers and my pajamas to the basement, I'm not going to step outside into the snow and go down the block for this compost bin. And I think that might be something to consider if you haven't already.
I think those are both great, really great points. I'll say, you know, as part of this grant that we're working on with Sun Prairie, one of the entities that we'll be composting with is also the school district. And in that it'll be two elementary schools and their, you know, their point source production for the, you know, their some of their meals. So I think that's a great point. And I think, you know, blending the two options where you are diverting a large quantity for an entity, but also, you know, able to work with schools to kind of promote that full circle educational aspect is really powerful. Kind of get the best of both
Strikes
worlds.
me if you can get one side, you might have a better chance of getting the other end as well.
I think you're 100% correct about that. The other thing I'll say is in terms of apartment buildings, I would love to get our carts in apartment buildings. I found though, so far, we haven't had a ton of traction, just as you're all aware, this Madison area, Dane County broadly has a housing shortage and developers don't have to do a ton to kind of entice people to live in their buildings. And you know, I don't blame them for that. It's another entity to deal with. But if you know of any buildings that you think would be open to this, I really think that if we can get we have a few, but if we can get a critical mass of
well, you know,
buildings,
not to smirk, but it is political season, and every, you know, 3/4 of the apartment buildings in this town are pretty much run by one person. And that person is always looking to the city to give them approval of this and approval of that. And I think it was helpful for me to see this because I sit in those positions where I can bring these issues up. And while I can't directly pressure, I can at least, you know, say, look, you really want these 800 apartment units. Here's something I think you really seriously need to consider. So thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll say one thing following up on that is, you know, with the city of Oregon, you know, we've only had a relationship with them for about 5 months or so, but one of the things we've talked about is like, you know, they're trying to pressure or like have some like set of things developers can do to like fit in with their like sustainability quota that they want the city wants them to fulfill. And one of the things they're talking about is adding in composting, you know, however, as part of that. And so we would be an easy solution for them to compost that way. And so
you keep doing what you're doing and we'll keep pushing
about that. Be really, really interested in that.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, let's move on to Kurt.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ben. Couple of questions. Biggest one for me is, have you or has anybody looked at these sort of compost programs in terms of, I guess one way to phrase like net life cycle, ecological or environmental impact? In other words, we're having vehicles going around picking up these things. They're burning gas. We have, you know, energy, I presume, being burned for your commercial composter. I mean, are we coming out ahead, or is this a lot of infrastructure and a lot of energy? And I mean, I know you're maybe in a biased position. You have this business model and you're trying to make it work, but have you or has anybody done that kind of analysis to give us a confidence that we're going to, on average and in total, make things better environmentally? And so that's my first question.
Sure. Okay, I'll add something quick. So I'll say, yes, I got into this for the exact reason that you're talking about. As a youngish, at this stage person, I care about where the, where the, we'll say, CO2 ppm is going, and the fact that we are way past 350. Somebody mentioned 350 earlier. But yeah, so that's why I'm doing this, and we've done multiple calculations. I'll say, let's say we have 50 people in the Middleton area, I think thereabouts. Each stop is probably less than a mile away from the stop before that. It takes about 2 minutes to drive there. We end up with about 100 people's compost, which is about half a ton every time we go out to Middleton, and that's just the residential route, which is the least effective. The most effective ones are when we pick up 1,000 pounds at one point from Willie Street Co-op, and so we've done the calculations. We are way net negative, and each day, like, this is the least efficient we will be moving forward, because as we grow, as we connect all these points, as we get better infrastructure, you talk about large scale infrastructure, we have the tiniest drop of infrastructure to deal with this problem. And Greenbox's goal is to kind of tie these collection routes in with creating the infrastructure to create the possibility of even addressing the food waste problem. So we are the least efficient we will ever be, and we are already way net negative. So I'm not at all worried about that. And I think there are things that we could do to be better, for sure. More density, larger scale vehicles hauling larger amounts of food waste, as opposed to the alternative. Electric vehicles, all these things are things that I want to do, but the reality is we have to deal in the real world, which is I've got to pay for that stuff. And for right now, we've got 4 vehicles, and we're looking to get another one that's going to be able to haul really large amounts. And at that point, we'll be making a really big impact. And I think that, again, like, the point is, I think, investing in the beginning of a program that will eventually grow to be really large scale, impactful, both in terms of like the recycling part, which means that you're not putting stuff in the landfill and you're creating a new resource. I think that's really key thing to highlight, is like, not only are there these like large scale climate impacts, but also there's really local, like, we're creating a really valuable resource right here. We're not
Yes.
trucking things all over the place. Like, the other thing I'll say is, like, we're not creating any new waste here, right? So we're just handling a quotient of waste that we're going to haul anyways more responsibly. So again, we're investing in kind of a more responsible way of handling this waste. And if we start now, in 10 years, it'll be where it needs to be, hopefully, and so I guess that's my answer to that question.
I love it, Ben.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'd encourage you to include that information in future presentations, or maybe even if you send us a follow-up, if you could include like some summary of that, that would be great.
Yeah, I can really give you a great EPA document on it.
Excellent. And what have you done any comparative analysis? I suspect, again, it would be probably very favorable, but answering people who say, hey, I got this great home composting machine.
Oh, I love to answer this question.
I'm just stumbling over, because it seems so inefficient at one way, but maybe I'm missing something. But do you have any kind of information about that, so that we can address that side of it too? Because
totally, yeah. So I'll answer that really quick. So these, the one that always comes to mind to me is this one called the Lomi. And I'll say, to begin with, this is all, like, we're nitpicking a little bit here, because I think trying to deal with this is important. So if somebody has this, I'm just saying, we're comparing these two things. I could fall very strongly, obviously, in favor of what we're doing. Again, bias, disclaimer, but for these reasons. One is that we can take way more. I mean, one of those things, the amount that you can put through those systems is very, very small. We can take like 40 pounds in a bucket, which means 20 pounds a week, which you are not getting through one of those things. The other thing is, what it does with that is it's a combination blender dehydrator. Those are two very, talk about energy intensive processes, you know? And
I'm
what
gonna
that
quick
means,
raise my hand and say, I have a pitchfork outside. That's mine. I don't have one of
yes,
these fancy
and there you
things.
go. You are the original blender dehydrator. Um,
But that's very energy inefficient. You know.
yes.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
not
that's
for my
true,
arms.
yeah.
It gets me good muscles.
Yeah, but you know, so is going to the gym, right? But you know, the issue there also is like you're not actually composting them. What you're doing is creating little
Right.
shards of not decomposed matter, which they tell you to put in the garden, which then starts decomposing, completely undoing all the work that you've done before. And the other thing is just it's treating a collective problem as an individual problem and creating an individual solution that costs a ton of money. Like I've done the analysis, it would take 3 years on our program for it to be even close to comparable for like the $300 item plus the $10 a month subscription you need for like the little things.
Right.
So I think investing that money in a local solution that creates broader capacity to also work in like restaurants and everything is a far better solution than a little countertop doohickey.
Right.
And
Okay.
we can just take away more. I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's easier to work with us.
And there again, if you had a fact sheet on that, I'd appreciate it. The last question is just, you say you're based in Sun Prairie. Do you have a municipal program set up with them, seeing as they're in your backyard? And can we see what that's like or hear more about that at some point?
So we have a really small program with Sun Prairie right now, where they just bring us all of the paper towels from their municipal buildings and we compost those. The reason it's so, we also have probably about 40 members in the Sun Prairie area. We are working, again, we applied in conjunction with Sun Prairie for a USDA grant to expand composting. And so if we get that, we'll have a much larger, interaction and program with Sun Prairie, including composting for all their city events for 2025, composting for, 3 of their schools in 2025, 2026, composting, having a subsidized compost program for 150 households in 2025 and 2026, and then giving compost back to a bunch of local food producers. But that's, all that is contingent on getting what I think is a very competitive grant. So I've high hopes, but we'll see.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good questions. Let's move on to Brad. You have the floor, Brad.
Okay, so just so you know, I'm the Middleton High School Green Team representative, which means I might be your person for working with the schools. And just before I get in, I don't want to get in trouble with the committee at all, with working outside the committee and stuff like that. But I would be happy to work with you, and I know our green team would be happy to work with you because we have had a lot of trouble with composting. The last year we had it installed, and then the last I know it was decommissioned. And I'm not exactly sure, and I'm pretty sure it did not involve animal scraps at all. So I think that would be extremely valuable. Second of all, at least for the green team with the high school, we've had a lot of trouble convincing superiors to actually enact it, because we don't have any evidence that it will actually be a net benefit. So if you said, correct me if I'm wrong, if you said you worked with other schools and if you had evidence that it was actually a net benefit, that we actually composted, I think that would be extremely valuable, at least for the schools.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I would love to, talk with, if you think the green team would be interested in talking, I'd love to come out there at some time and, talk to the green team about their experience with trying to get that going with the schools. And again, like what sort of evidence or, fact sheets or, statement of what we do, that would help kind of, move that process along. Be happy to do all that.
Brad, on behalf of the committee, I think you're only in trouble if you don't do this.
That's right. I was just going to say, Brad, you're not in trouble. This is a benefit.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And we have kids in the school district too. I think my
Right.
son is in your grade.
Okay.
Yes. So there you go.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So
John said it perfectly.
can I,
You're
like, put my
if you
email in
don't.
Can I
We're
put my
trying to
email in the chat or something?
Can you what? I'm sorry.
Can you put
Yeah,
my
why don't
email
you
in the
guys
chat or
switch
something?
to chat and you can share information or something.
Yeah. Go ahead and put that in there and I'll copy it down send you something.
Sure, you can also go to Kelly too, and she can connect you too, either way.
Awesome.
Okay, wonderful. Good work,
Sweet.
Brad. And
Well,
well, real quick, Dick, thank you for encouraging Brad to get in the queue on the comment. Good work. Okay, Ben.
okay, the last thing I'll do, I'll make this like 3 minutes. I just want
Yeah,
to
how
show
about
you.
like, yeah, super quick, okay?
Yeah, I'm in and out. I just want to show you. Okay, this is all of our members in the Madison area. I don't know if you can see all that, but
Yep.
okay. This is our composting system. It's probably not what most people have experienced. It's really great at dealing with, I mean, this is the reason we can take all of these, meat, bones, dairy, the compostable items, all of that. It's really highly efficient. We get compost. The initial stage of composting takes 4 to 5 weeks, and then it comes out, the right side there under that hood. And then eventually we make, you can see all the kind of little things, but we don't have time for this. We wash everything, but then eventually they go into these bunkers where they compost for another month. We push air through them. It speeds up the process. And then after this, we screen and we give compost back to our members and or sell it to, larger scale entities. And that's it. I just wanted to, again, show you kind of that, just like highlight the difference in our process from probably what most people are thinking of with composting. And with that, I'm gonna leave it. If there are any other questions, feel free to email me. I'll get back to you really quickly. Brad, I'll send you an email as well. And yeah, thanks for having me by, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super
Thanks.
informative. Love it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, good
That was
idea,
great.
Kelly. Yeah,
Brad, your hand's still up. There you go.
okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on to staff report. Anyone have Q&A? Kermit?
Kelly, one question I had was related to the streetlight LED conversion project. And I was talking to a good neighbor here in Middleton who was mentioning, gee, have you guys been talking about these new lights getting this new sensor triggered technology? In other words, street lights that just aren't on from dusk to dawn, but respond to basically physical activity in the street or at the street level. Is that something that was considered, or do you know about, and what's the status there? Because I noticed the things are moving along for the project, it sounds like.
Yeah, not that I know of. That's a good idea though. I think that would be like a policy level question to bring to Public Works, about street lighting and how it would fit in with our ordinance and safety and their thoughts on that. So, I think that's a conversation we could have. I don't remember anything in the specifications in the bid documents that talked about specificity on sensors.
Mm-hmm. And well, so the question is, do we have time in the requisition and acquisition process to raise that question meaningfully, or are we, too late?
Too late for this one. Although I will say these lights in this grant cycle are mostly along major routes like University Avenue and some of the bigger streets, which probably you wouldn't want to power down at any point in the night. There are some in the next grant, which I do not know if we've gotten the next round of grant funding yet. I should know soon. If we get that grant, those are neighborhood lights in North Lake and Middleton Hills. So, that'd be a bigger conversation with maybe Middleton Hills, North Lake, and Public Works. But we would probably have time to look into that. I don't know what the cost would be.
Yeah, I don't.
For sensor type things. The lights are very expensive for the neighborhoods because they're specialty light fixtures.
Yeah, I have some
Okay,
information,
and-
but Dean was up first, so.
Yeah, well, I just want to, still on the streetlights, have they been selected with any intentionality regarding dark skies issues? In other words, are they designed so that even if they aren't switchable or sensor driven, that they're not illuminating the trees and the treetops, but keeping the light down to the ground?
Yes, they must be dark skies compliant or whatever the lighting ordinance says we're required to have those types of lights. And that our new lighting order and our ordinance includes dark skies.
Okay, and so that'll be checked on before the check is signed off to,
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's in the specifications in the bid docs. And we haven't put that out to bid yet, but hopefully in the next 3 to 5 weeks, we'll get that settled.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Kelly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Would the streetlights that went in at Red Tail Ridge a couple months ago be the LED?
That's a great question. I would hope so, but I'm not entirely sure. Do you know?
Well, Kermit, I can tell you that
Benjamin?
they are much better than the existing ones on Bellefontaine. As far as the light that's being emitted directly above the
Mhm.
bulb is much dimmer, and they're more pleasing to look at.
Mhm.
As far as sort of the coloring, but I've tried to take a few night pictures. I can share them later, but yeah, there's a difference if those are new ones.
Got it.
Nice, okay. Let's go to Dean and then John.
Yeah, thank you. Kelly, I was just wondering on the charging and fueling infrastructure grant, you have a phrase, Middleton may receive a few new public stations, and I'm wondering what is the process by which, from where the money came, how did it get to Dane County, and how does it get divided up among Dane County municipalities, and what's the process, and what might a few actually mean?
Well, I can't say for sure because I don't know how it's going to pan out in the end, but the process will be, well, the grant was written jointly with all the towns and villages and cities in Dane County. The utilities were involved, local community partners, CBOs were involved. So it was a joint grant process. Originally, Kathy Kuntz did the very heavy lift on actually writing the grant. We had a lot of meetings about it to talk through it. And there's going to be a fairly substantial community engagement component to this to make sure that we're citing the new stations in areas where there truly are gaps. And that prioritize where there's a lot of multifamily buildings and then also in rural areas. One thing that's already been done is that CARPC, which is the regional planning organization, they did a very substantial report and research paper on EV infrastructure in Dane County, and they identified a lot of the gaps. They identified where it would be perhaps best to place the stations, and on the map, there are some stations placed out in Greenway Station on their map, which I think is a likely spot where they would maybe put some if they put some in Middleton. I do think we'll get some out of it. We may not get, a ton of stations all over the city, but we also already have some infrastructure, and I think it'll also be good for drivers who are running errands to Madison and all over Dane County. You'll have more opportunities to charge elsewhere.
Yeah. And is this the grant function that's also paying for lots of other infrastructure around the state, county by county? Or is this?
It's a bit separate. It's separate, but it was rolled out and offered as a means to fill gaps that the larger program from the feds that put the charging stations along major highway corridors.
Okay.
They knew originally that would be great and we need that, but there's also a lot of gaps.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
So this is on top of that. This
is on top of that. It's totally separate. And Milwaukee won a similar grant, and we got this grant. So, and that's probably because Dane County has more EVs per capita than any other county in the state. And so we made a really good case for why we needed more charging infrastructure here. We need it everywhere. And Milwaukee
Mhm.
needs more as well. So I'm glad they got the grant also.
Thank you.
Mhm.
John.
Yeah, quick, it's about the streetlights again. Thank you, Kermit. You must know the constituent in my district who called me about this a couple of days ago. And,
I
and
think
raised
so.
this issue. I'd never heard of these things. They're basically our streetlights with sensors in them. So they go out until they sense something moving underneath. The gentleman, I said I'd ask it. I had never heard of them, but he was good enough to send a couple links to a couple European companies and firms that are doing this. I haven't had a chance to look at those, but if you're willing, I will send those links on to you. And I would appreciate you taking a look at them, because I have no idea what cost or anything else is involved, but that this was on a residential street on Elmwood, so. but
Yeah,
I'll
that
send
would be
those links to
great.
you. Yeah.
I
okay,
would
that's all.
love those links, and I will follow up on that, and then we can look at that to get the cost with our vendors.
Yeah, the particular light where there's no trees or anything, the light is very bright and it comes in the house, so I'll send it to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Dick.
Yeah, thanks. I think this falls under staff report area. Well, I read, I guess it was in the Kevin's comments at the beginning that the library bookmobile is not EV. And I was very disappointed to hear that we're not pushing these kinds of options where a single vehicle that gets a lot of stopping and starting. But I guess my question was related to, we haven't heard anything about the little trolley system. I mean, back when Deb and I were first on, this was a deal where the trolley was known as a diesel and gas guzzler or diesel guzzler and polluter. And we're trying to sustain things and practice what we preach or what we try to get going here. Has anything happened with the trolley system and all these vehicles that the city uses, or people or entities within the city that feel like they get tax dollars or government subsidies and whatever? How can we push them to be looking at the EV option?
I'm not sure about the trolley system was discontinued. So we don't have that system running anymore for use by tourism. And
I mean, that probably died because of COVID, but I was wondering if they were thinking about bringing it up, and it was just.
Well, if I could, that really was a tourism feature, and tourism didn't have them, but they decided they didn't have the money to keep it going. It wasn't generating enough tourism between the hotels and the restaurants, which is what it was designed to do. So it's never meant to be a public transit except to get people from A, hotels to B, restaurants. So it's dead at the moment.
but hotel, who was paying for it? Tourism, right?
You know, I
City.
don't know, because they ended that before I even got on a council, so I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
But it was through the initiative of tourism that was happening.
did the hotel taxes fund that perhaps?
It's possible.
I think that might be
do
how it
that.
was largely funded, but I don't think they could make the case that the trolley put heads in beds, which is what tourism
Yeah,
tries to do. So that might be one reason they didn't feel they could keep justifying it. I missed the trolley, but it wasn't very well used. Maybe it would be now that we have a lot more things going on downtown.
Yeah, okay, back to the bookmobile. Is that a done deal? That they're not buying a EV vehicle?
Yeah, they don't have the bookmobile in hand, I don't believe yet, but Jocelyn was looking at this vehicle over a year ago, maybe even almost up to 2 years ago, looking at different models and what vehicle they could get that would serve their needs. And they couldn't find an EV that they felt matched their needs. But I think that's a good question for the library. I can't remember what the detailed answer on that was.
And they paid for it already? I mean, maybe 2 years ago. It's like there might be new options now.
Yeah.
But who
And she-
knows?
She also brought up the fact that they were referred to get a Ford vehicle as the tradition has been in Middleton. And of course, Ford had no electric vehicles that were sufficient. It's not clear to me that they went and looked at all electric vehicles that could possibly do this job.
Yeah, okay. Dick, did you feel like, I'm sorry, who was talking?
I had my hand up. I don't
Oh,
know if
Kermit,
Dick's
yeah,
done.
yeah, I just want to make sure Dick was done. You done, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Kermit, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Getting back to the staff report, Kelly, given that we had this big conversation about food waste composting, how does the USDA $400,000 grant connect? I mean, is it the same thing that he was talking about that Sun Prairie's applied for, or is it different? Are we collaborating already, or please
There is,
say more?
well, there is overlap between the food waste grant through the USDA that I have in the staff report. I believe I put that in the staff
Yep,
report.
yep, it's in.
Because that was a grant written a year ago by the Dane County Waste and Renewables, and Middleton was written into that grant as being the recipient of one of the food waste drop-off kiosks. So right now that project has just begun. They've hired a business manager for that project through the county with some of the grant funding. And they're trying to make the program sustainable so that it lasts beyond when the grant money runs out. They currently have budget to place kiosks in Madison, one in Middleton, one in McFarland. And it would work much like Ben was explaining about the food waste drop-off in a centralized location where you would perhaps have a padlock, I mean, have a code for a locked bin and be part of a program. And then the county would provide hauling service for that. But my question is still how long, that could last, or if it
Right.
could sustainably last. So that's why I think it's interesting to hear what Green Box can offer too. Green Box may end up being part of that program and being looped into that. So I'm not sure. That's not really my decision, but that it's very possible, but that there's overlap on that one, the kiosk drop-off sites. But Middleton probably you will have a drop-off site at least short term for doing composting
Okay.
for
Yeah, I
residents.
mean, if there is some coordination that's appropriate there, I mean, it seems like rather than reinventing the wheel, if Green Box is already geared up with the infrastructure, it would make sense to have that be a collaboration point as well. So I don't know whether there's any way you can investigate or encourage that, but that's my thought then based on what you're saying. So thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Good discussions. I think we can move on from staff Q&A. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I think we can relatively move quickly through this one. I will just say that we're going to postpone the utility flyer till the fall or till the next spring. So, we have a little bit more money there. But we still have time this fall, so there are funds available, which we can continue to talk about and work on. I feel compared to years past, very well with the budget and tracking it and spending it, on good things. But here's what it is. So if people have ideas, there is some budget available. And I think we can move forward on that unless anyone has any comments.
I did hear back from the utility flyer person that if we need an extra couple days, we could submit it on Wednesday. If we want to do something that we discussed where we just recycle some of what we've already sent out, maybe add the other backside that talks about energy goals. And it was already actually created by Lynn last round, but we ended up using a different configuration. So we could do that still, but we'd have to turn it in by Wednesday.
Okay, we'll see. Deb, go ahead.
At the Friends meeting tonight, the watershed committee who's working on the referendum thought that the city was putting a flyer in this utility mailing about the referendum coming up on stormwater.
Oh.
Maybe John knows about that?
John, you're on mute, John.
I understood they're gonna do flyers, but on a council, we're supposed to pay attention to policy, not actions. Although I don't know what's actually going on with that.
Well, it would be informational. They mentioned that, and it would
Yeah, it
be.
was gonna be informational, and I know a couple of the other, council members are trying to do special, sessions, community sessions and things on this. The council is 100% in favor of this whole proposal, but whether you could add on those flyers to these things, I have no idea.
Okay, well, you might
I'm
want
not
to.
involved at that levels.
Okay.
I'll ask immediately to see if I can get an answer on that. So
Yeah.
in case you can't have 3 separate sheets in a folder, or if it makes it too expensive.
That might make it too expensive
Yeah.
because it
Mhm.
would overweight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Kermit,
Yeah,
fast if
just
you can.
Yeah, just extending discussion about the flyer idea. I think it could be very timely to continue pushing word out about the homes here, the IRA, ways to try to encourage residents in our great city to start looking at ways they can get involved with taking advantage of discounts, rebates, credits. If nothing else, just, and I think even if it's redundant, I think it's worth doing, and including links to the Sustainable You presentations that Kathy did would be a nice way to kind of introduce that for people. So I don't know if Lynn has his magic graphic design keyboard ready to go on something like that and has enough information from what we talked about, but I'd encourage taking advantage of the fact that we have the money and we have the possibility, again, pending what you might find out, Kelly, about whether too many sheets spoil the broth.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Kermit. Noted. We'll discuss, I'll get with Deb and Lynn tomorrow and just see what time allows, because we, it's kind of I will say my lack of planning on this, and I don't want to make it somebody else's fire drill if they don't have it in their schedule. So we'll see what we can do, and we'll go from there. Okay, but thank you. That's good feedback. I appreciate that. I'm also a believer in people need to see things multiple times, to let it sink in. So that's my stance on that. So, okay. Thank you for that. Let's go to Laura for the sustainable purchasing policy update.
Okay, well, basically where we're at is how to move this thing forward. So Christy and Dean looked through the materials and gave me some ideas for, maybe cutting down the deck, which is fine. I was, going to do that. That was just for information. And the IP guidance sheets, those are pretty, I think they're in a pretty strong situation. Kelly noted that maybe this stuff needs to go out to other committees. So I think in terms of process of moving forward, I kind of need to defer to Kelly because things move at a different pace going through government issues versus when I, worked in business or education. So I'm open for any other improvement, changes, or anything that the committee thinks needs to be done for these guidance sheets or the 5-year plan. If you, as a committee, feel that we're good with that, then it's probably time to move them on to these other committees so we can get that done and start moving forward. The things that I would point out, kind of circling back to Kevin's comment, and this came up before with the tourism car not being, encouraged to be electric or at the very least hybrid, but being an ICE vehicle, I do think that's a bit of a problem. The SPP is already passed. So, and we talked to the people at tourism. So the question is, if we're serious about this, what can we do to get people to, for at least the very big items, start taking it seriously? The first, thing that I put on the plan was to have an inventory and replacement plan for the HVAC and appliances, because we already had a plan to replace vehicles. So part of my question is why I don't know what I can do to stop people from purchasing ICE vehicles. So
Yeah, can I interject on part of the council? You're not going to be able to stop them until it becomes policy voted by and approved by the council after it's vetted through all the committees. And I don't think it's really this committee's job to determine what all the other committees should be. What I think has to happen, and should probably happen sooner than later, is that this gets presented as an item for consideration for the council to look at and to get opinions on it. And the council will then do committees that they think are relevant. And the sooner they do that, then you get the force of the council, making sure the committees look at it, making sure that they respond back to the council, and ultimately you get the council's approval, at which point it becomes city policy, and then the city needs to be in the business of doing it.
so then the process, instead of going next, council next, and then you send it to the committees.
That's exactly right. You send it, you don't say, here's a done deal. You say, we come up with this policy and we want the council's opinion about whether they think it's good or bad. So your approval of what this committee did from the council. If the council might make suggestions or might accept it, but then they'll say, but we need to get the input from all of these other committees, and they will send it off as part of the deliberation at council. But before you go to other committees, I mean, if the council's going to turn it down flat, you're spending a lot of energy without getting their input before they send it off. And that's why I think it needs to go next is to the council for, not for approval, but to the council for consideration.
Okay.
Kelly, Kelly, you want to jump in?
Oh, no, I was just gonna thank John for bringing that up, because I think we did the sustainability plan the opposite way. We went through the committees first and then to council. So if you think it's best to do council first.
Well, we can do it the other way. If you're really convinced that the council's going to be fine with all of this thing, I mean, they're anxious, they're looking forward to it. So it's not mandatory that you do it that way, but as a suggestion, that the first thing you want to get is the council on board with what you've done. And then they will scrutinize it. Otherwise, you may find a lot of committee work gets done, or committees have questions because they don't know what the council's going to think about this, and then it bounces around for too long.
That's true. And, John, I appreciate that comment as well, because I've been struggling with how to make it so this goes, and we all have, Laura and Kelly and so that it goes rather than just sits on a shelf. We don't want that. That's what happened to the last one. That's why we're
I would talk to Brian and get Brian's opinion on what he thinks of how this should be done. But I think it's time to move forward. And I think it's time. I'll be giving a report tomorrow at the council about this meeting, and I'll tell them that this is ready to go and start looking at it. And they've been waiting and I think and biting their fingernails on this thing. So that's why I think going to the council first is the appropriate thing at this point. But let Brian, ultimately he controls the agenda mostly, in the mayor that goes on the committees. So, but that's my suggestion.
That's very helpful. Dean.
Yes, just to comment on the tourism vehicle and also other purchases we've heard about for ICE vehicles and equipment, some at the golf course. And it seems like there needs to be put into this plan something I hadn't thought about before, real formally, but some sort of way of saying, if you're buying a internal combustion engine powered piece of equipment or vehicle that's going to be lasting usually 20 years on the larger pieces, there needs to be some overview and approval, possibly at the council level, to go forward with that.
Yeah.
Without, so that that has a special standing because it's such a long-term effector of the environment. It's going to be burning fossil fuels 20 years from now.
John?
I'm hearing you. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I have a crying dog, a puppy. And by
Oh,
crying means I've
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear that feedback. Kelly, go ahead.
I would just say, I think it'd be good for this committee to give your blessing or do a motion or decide tonight if you feel that it's ready to present to council. I can talk to Brian simultaneously to see if that's the route he thinks we should take or whether we should do committees first. But either way, I think the committee, should weigh in with feedback or, say whether, if you think it's ready to take through the process, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, there will be changes. But as Abby always tells me, you have to trust the process.
Does anyone else have comments or feedback on it? Right now? Okay, Kelly, I did appreciate your email earlier about possibly including this in the packet, so it's really out there and transparent, which I liked that train of thought. So I'm not sure, just based on how things transpired tonight, if you think it, we still should do that, which I think is a good idea. Do we send it to council? How do you? We could talk about it tomorrow too. Just Dick.
Yeah. I would like to make a motion that we want this, we recommend that this be sent to the Common Council for consideration. I think that was the word that John was using, of this Sustainable Purchasing Policy Plan thing.
Okay, do we have a second? Deb? Okay, all in favor?
Second.
I'm gonna,
Oh, I'm sorry.
per
Any
Robert's
other-
Rules of Order, the
Right.
motion is on the floor for discussion.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I'm just gonna ask for, do we want to have some stronger language like, the Middleton Sustainability Committee recommends the SPP be approved by Common Council. Then they have to go through whatever process they need to approve it, but
Laura?
I, like you said, I wouldn't go approve, like I said, for consideration, they have to approve it. I'm fine with presenting it to them. I'm fine with, putting in their packet all the guidance sheets
Right.
and that, and then doing a 10-minute presentation explaining it and saying, here's where we're at, to see if we can get them to say, yeah, we agree, so we can get it back to these committees, so we can do something. I think we're all, including the council, a little frustrated. It's just taken forever to get here.
Right.
So I don't want to get it tied up by saying, I don't want them to think they're approving it as is. I just want approval. I just want them to say, yeah, we agree. We've looked at this. We've considered it.
Yeah.
Let's move forward.
Yeah, I like the word consideration. That's what
Is there,
John.
Yeah.
Kelly has a,
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
Sorry, I can't find my raise hand for some dumb reason.
Oh.
I
Just scream at me, okay, if I don't see your hand.
my gut reaction is just to say, if you ask for approval, then they may approve it or shut it down. And I think maybe a safer bet, and one that would welcome a process where we talk some of the questions that are lingering out with committees like Public Works. Like, I feel like it's really important that Public Works has it on their plate and they can discuss it to, I think it gets you a better product, even though it's tedious when you take it through the committees. So I'm wondering if maybe you could add, and this is only just a brainstorm, not a trying to write your motion, but maybe you could say sent to Common Council for consideration and referral to appropriate committees. Or
sounds perfect.
Add some kind of
okay.
Yeah, it was good.
Done.
Successful 5 minutes, sorry.
That
Yeah,
sounds
that was-
good. As the
Sounds
person who
good.
made the motion, that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
And-
have
and-
that, do we have a first? Do we need a second on that? Do we have that?
Well, the motion is a friendly
I did.
amendment, and Deb, you gave the second, correct?
Yeah. And
So
I
are you
still
still okay?
do.
Are you okay with the Kelly's
Yeah, I'm fine
recommendation?
with the addition. Yeah.
Yeah, I missed the first part. Technically, if you have a friendly amendment, you have to vote on the amendment before you go back to act on the now amended original motion.
Oh, well, we didn't,
Well, I made the motion and I had used the word consideration because that was what
Yeah.
you had recommended, John, and I love.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I did not
Yeah.
want Kermit's request or
Yeah.
for amendment for approval.
I mean, for brevity, you can say since the person who made the motion and second agreed to the change, I don't,
right,
at the council, we would definitely have to take a
Yeah.
vote on the change
Yeah.
before we
I am
went back.
agreeing
Exactly.
with Kelly had changed it, and so Kelly, can you reread it just so we are clear what I'm agreeing to?
Okay, yeah, I think the end of what I read needs a little work, but Lathrop motions that the committee recommends that the sustainable purchasing policy implementation plan be sent to common council for consideration and referral to appropriate committees. And I didn't get the last phrase in there.
I don't think you need a last
Okay,
phrase.
all right.
I think that, yeah,
I think that was
That was
it.
what I have
Just
had.
clear and simple, you know?
Yep.
Terse is good.
Yeah,
I
okay,
like that, and I'm accepting that.
okay. So we have a first, we have a second. Do we have, let's take a vote. All in
Well, your
favor?
discussion, you technically then open
Yeah.
for discussion.
Oh, do we have any further?
We had
discussion?
discussion, but
Okay.
That's okay,
Then
it's
hearing
good.
on that, then you bring it for the vote.
Okay.
Technically,
okay.
you're not supposed to discuss the specifics of the motion until the motion's on the table.
right.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The
No,
vote
I
usually goes
appreciate this
backwards.
guidance. I appreciate the guidance.
That's
Okay, do we have any discussion on the motions at hand? Okay,
Nope.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you. Good work, everyone. Good work, Laura. I would like to give an applause to Laura. This amount of work that she has put into this is far above and beyond. And, you know, we're all going to reap the benefits of this, Laura. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm. Indeed.
Okay. Moving forward, let's go to work initiatives. Green Team, Brad, do you have anything further for us or for the group?
The only thing I would say is that our first meeting is this Thursday, and if there are any ideas people have, we will be just mostly brainstorming initiatives we would be interested in working on throughout the year. So if anyone has any ideas or things you think we should bring up at that meeting, I would love to hear it. Other than that, not really any
How about
updates.
composting?
Composting, we'll definitely go over that.
yeah, on the composting thing, I noticed in the presentation, he talked about being able to sell at discounted prices, the plasticware, getting compostable plasticware. It feels like that's got to be part of the discussion because I'm assuming there's so much, you know, utensils that get thrown out, and either they're going to have the metal ones that get washed or something compostable. But I feel like that the school's got a challenge of, you know, getting kids to correctly do everything, and it's easy to contaminate something. And if there's too much contamination, that really is a problem. So I think getting your green team to really look at that. The other thing I would say is work with the Cromery younger age green team, because they were really working a lot on that. And it would be nice if the high school kids can team up with the Cromery middle school kids, and I think it broadens the appeal.
Okay,
like that a lot.
thank you, John.
Mhm.
You're on mute again, John.
You've got the leverage of this committee, so use it. When
Yeah.
you go in there and say, this committee is strongly in favor of this and strongly encourages me to bring it forward, including members of the council. So use that leverage. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You should always feel comfortable coming to us for things you need support with. Okay,
Okay.
all right,
Okay.
Kermit.
Yeah, Brad, yeah, definitely. We are here to support and encourage you and help you navigate obstacles that you may run into at your end. So thanks for what you're doing. Question about the Dane County Youth Environmental Committee. You're plugged into that, I presume, or somebody from the high school green team?
I don't want to make assumptions. I'm not personally.
Okay,
I would,
okay. Well, okay, so then I will say somebody should be from Middleton High School because we're one of the bigger high schools in Dane County and
In the state, we're the
if not
biggest.
the state, thank you. There
And
you
we're the
go.
best in the county too.
Yeah.
And we're the best. Let's not forget that. And
That's
it's full of good neighbors. Anyways, yeah, that's a group that you guys should really be plugged into. So whoever it is, find out. And if it's not anybody yet, get somebody on board. Related to that, I know, and I know that there's an upcoming conference for Dane County high school green teams, etc. And that's something that's going to be a really important event for Middleton High School to be represented at. So plug into that
Yes.
too.
DCYEC, DCYEC.
It was
Dane
founded by a
County.
Middleton Green Team school member too.
Exactly.
perfect. I will definitely go over that and see what our plan is for that. For sure. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm reading the chat. That's good. So that's a good start, Brad. But just know that we can help you with things. So we look forward to that. All right, let's go to Good Neighbor Fest recap. Dick and
Yeah.
Deb.
It was a very hot day and we had plenty, I think, of help from the high school in Cromery and Dick's neighbor, who was, I don't think she's in middle school yet, is she, Dick?
My neighbor, she's a middle schooler.
She is middle school. Okay, so we had middle school and high school and community. We had a family from the community as well. So, and I didn't think that the parade itself was as well attended as in the past. So it was a little slow giving out the bags. However, the budget, it was right to the budget. So we budgeted 2,500 and it was just under that, what we paid for those the t-shirts that everybody was wearing as well as those bags. And I think they were well received again. It was the second year that we did the fold up bags. So now we're thinking about doing something different because the first 2 years we had the large size grocery bags. The next 2 years we had the fold ups. Now it's time to make a change. So that will be the next thing that we're thinking about. But overall, I thought it went very well. We had the electric car from the city in there that Kelly drove. And yeah, Dick, what do you want to add?
No, that's it. It was a good day.
Nice. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, I do want to say, I want to reinforce something. Deb worked really hard to get additional kids and their parents, and having more adults there that helped in measurable ways. I mean, I thought from the parade mechanics point of view, from what we were doing, it was the best we've had. We had 4 or 5, 3 or 4 extra parents, and besides the 3 of us plus Kelly, Laura, Deb, and I, and a bunch of kids. And I think there was what, 13 total people. Deb, was that our final number on that? Maybe it was even more of that. I think
it was a couple more than that.
yeah, I think what it showed is if we're going to do this and hand out stuff, we need this 13 to 15 people. And Kermit, I would say it would have been very difficult to manage your bike meandering around us. So just beware that in the future, if we do have that many people, the bicycle will be thrown to the curb. But anyway, that many people, and I credit Deb for really beating the bushes to help us get the number of people that really pulled it off.
Yeah, and I would like to say, I did not help with the parade. This was Deb and Dick, and you know, I don't know who did more, but they just really took it on and did it with Kelly's help too. So thank you. Great thing on behalf of the committee.
Yeah, and Laura was
And
big.
Laura was there.
Oh, Laura, you were there. Laura, thank you.
Yep.
Double duty. She's doing plans. She's at the parade. Jeez. Can't keep up with you, Laura. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's move on. So we talked about utility flyer already, sustainable U. Deb, do you want to comment on the two left, which I think are really good ones?
Well, we just had, we had to reschedule the IRA for business with Kathy Kuntz because we only had 5 people or 5 businesses sign up for it originally, which was a face-to-face. So we rescheduled it. Lisa Hanaro suggested that we do it virtually so that businesses, people that were working during the day could take a break, watch this thing and get right back to work. So we had it at 9:30 in the morning. And we only got 5 people that showed up for it. So Kermit was one of them. I thought it was very well done by Kathy, and there were a lot of questions and things, but we just didn't get the number of businesses to show up. And so now that information is on the library website, so you can watch the presentation. The Q&As are not going to be part of it. So it's only half an hour without those Q&As. So the next one is going to be, well, we already mentioned that from the letter that you read in the beginning, but that's going to be Catherine, how do you say her name? Last name is Moshkow, Slattery Moshkow. And she's going to be talking about sustainable development. And then I had somebody from Renew that was going to be talking about EVs. And when I sent her the information recently that she had to fill out about what she's going to call it for the promotion, I found out she doesn't work for them anymore. And so now we're quickly looking for a replacement, which I'm hoping to hear from. It's not Renew. There's a new name for it, for what she's doing with electrification, something with electrification for EVs. So anyway, fingers crossed on that one. And then we are, Kelly and I met with a gentleman from MG&E who would put on an EV show next year. He would do a short presentation inside the library, and then he would come out and there would be community members showing off their EVs, and they could talk about the different models and pros and cons and the charging issue. You know, are you able to get a charge when you need one, and all of that. So we're going to do that one, I guess, in June of 2025.
Yep, June 19th from 6 to 7:30, and MGE will do the social media posts that we can then use, and they'll do a lot of the advertising for it. And they'll bring 10 to 12 EV ambassadors with them, and people can look in the cars, get in them, and it can be an event hosted downtown near the library. They can also do a short 101 sustainable U-like presentation before the car show and tell. They've done quite a few of them before, and they've done one in Middleton, but it's been quite a few years. So I'm glad to have them back doing that next summer.
And we have our sustainable use slots through the library. Now we just need to have the speaker series. So if anybody has suggestions as to what kinds of talks we should have next year, please send them our way. And we'll look into, if you've got a person that would be a good speaker, send it our way and we'll see what we can do with that, getting them scheduled.
This is just a quick thought, Deb, but the Mount Horeb plant, the Mountain View plant something, they do great talks all the time. I don't know if you want to do anything in collaboration. We can talk separately about that if you're interested.
Okay, well, you could send me an email with what they do, what they talk about, and contact information.
Okay, sure.
Clarification, Deb, you say we have slots for sustainable U, like the library has given us dates, or you just
Yes.
kind of have like specific
Yes.
dates? Okay,
Yes, we've got specific dates, and it's going to be Kelly, do you remember, is it the Thursday, the third Thursday of the month on even months? Because the Friends of Pheasant Branch have all the odd months, and then we take the even months, and it's the same slot. It's the third Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock.
and what months, or starting which month?
The even months, so February.
Oh,
April.
it's every year,
It's
okay.
10, those dates, I mean, those months.
Got it.
Okay.
I thought it was starting later in the year or something, but
Well, I only had to start later in the year because I didn't get my act together soon enough last year to get signed up, and they were all the slots were taken. We couldn't get anything until, I don't know, April or something.
okay, got it.
This year, we're a little quicker on the draw.
Nice.
Good work.
Okay, other work initiative updates. I think we might be ready to get close to adjourning. I think we are done with our agenda. People,
We have 23 minutes left.
oh, you want to just keep going?
No, I don't.
That's what John says, everyone, it wasn't me.
I know.
Well, Christy, don't you have the last question of any agenda items for the October meeting?
Yes, and people are also welcome to email those to Kelly and I after. Guy, I see your hand up now and I saw it earlier. However, I'm sorry, this is not, we're not able to have public comments at this time. They are at the beginning in the first, the second agenda item. So just mentioning that. So I think we can, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Schaefer will motion to adjourn the meeting, and Kelly, I just sent you those emails.
Okay, do we have a second?
Lathrop seconds.
Okay. Kelly, is that you under the guy thing? No, it's like you keep flashing
No.
the screen. No, it's
No.
different. Okay, it just keeps going. Okay, never mind. It was my Zoom thing. Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Bye.
Aye,
Bye.
adjourned. Thank you, everyone, very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.